everybody, how's it going? It's Bad Sim Crazy. Back here with my third video on my quest to conquer the map Ricci's Hollow on FS19. Like I said in the last video, I'm taking a little bit more of a calculated approach now. And I've started by going through and putting together this list of all of the inputs and outputs across all of the manufacturing facilities in the map. I'm hoping that this will help me with kind of where to start. That'll make the most sense, and also how to kind of keep things organized as I start to get more and more of the map bought up and owned. And so this is relatively straightforward. I've just got the location, so the actual manufacturing facility itself, and then all of the inputs and the max quantities for that facility, and then all of the outputs and quantities for that facility. And so one way I kind of want to use this, first of all, I've got this other tab over here, and this just shows me for inputs only how many different places does that show up as an output. So in other words, barley, that doesn't show up as an output, at least on my current list, anywhere. Whereas barrels, that shows up twice as an output, so that's an output of two different facilities. And so that tells me that while barley is something, and obviously I know that I'm just going to have to grow in a field, it's not produced anywhere, but barrels are produced in a couple of different places, so I'm going to have to get some sort of manufacturing going to be able to have that input, because it's an output of two other facilities. So one thing that kind of tells me right off the bat is that it would probably help me to focus on some of these things that I just have to create. And so some of these are relatively obvious in the sense that I'm going to need to plant these in a field: barley, clover, corn. And then some of these, chicken, so I'm going to have to get into animals to get that going, cow. And then some of these, this list probably needs a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of work to make it really helpful, like coal rock, copper rock. I know that that's technically an output of the mine, the coal mine or the copper mine, but I didn't have that listed as an output, since it goes right back into the mine as an input. So it depends on how you want to look at that, I guess. And then some of these things like cane, any of these things that say C notes, especially these mix 1, 2, 3, that's where it could be multiple items, and so that's just thinking of a better way to organize that. But at the moment I just have a note that says C notes, so I know that that's one of those where it could be multiple items. I think it means that it can be any of the items listed. It could potentially mean that it has to be all of them, but I'm hoping that it's just means that it could be any one of them that would fulfill the quantity, the need for that item to start the manufacturing process. So looking at this, I think I'm going to start focusing on what I should grow first and things like that. And I think, looking back here, what I know will be helpful right off the bat is just thinking about keeping things running. I know I'm going to need diesel. I know I'm going to need fertilizer. I know I'm going to need herbicide, and I know that I'm going to need seed. And so if I look at these things, I know that these will all help me, grow crops or, run my vehicles, things like that. So I think, this diesel refinery, that's going to be a little bit more complicated. That requires quite a few inputs: crate, crude oil. These are things that I don't have yet. But I already own all of these things in blue: the fertilizer, the liquid transition, the seed master. So I think, just looking at this right off the bat, this liquid transition, I think I can maybe get that going with, I'll have to, work on where to get sugar, but I can start growing some potatoes, so I'll probably do that right off the bat, as maybe see if I can get my first field and start growing some potato. And then the seed master, I think that I will start with as well, because that is going to be fertilizer. And I haven't added my notes here yet. I did it up here, but I haven't done that here yet. So, but I know that grain is any number of the grain crops, and then fertilizer is either solid or liquid fertilizer. So I can get those things going right off the bat. So I think that's what I'm going to focus on, is maybe trying to get, and then the silt. See, this can be manure, compost, or silt. I think. I don't think it has to be all three. I'm going to find out pretty soon. But I think I can get and want to get these locations up and running first, so then I'll be able to have access to herbicide, fertilizer, seeds. I won't have to purchase those. So that will be helpful. And then as soon as I can get this up and running, this will give me fuel for my vehicles, as well as it's an input in just about every one of these things. Not all of them, but it's an input here. It's also an input in the copper mine that I already own, that I kind of bought on a whim in video too. So I think that's where I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna use this list to help me kind of move forward with what to buy next, where to go from here. So hopefully this will be helpful for me. All right, so my first one of my first interests here is to purchase a field, which, looking around with the money that I have, not a lot of great options, let me tell you. I've got this field 3 here, just from looking around at a few of these smaller ones. I think is going to be my best bet at 324, almost 325K. So I think, given that I only have 53, not a lot, I think I'm going to go sell the rest of the grass that I own, and then see if I can take a loan big enough to buy this field. Is that a great idea? I don't know, maybe not, but we're gonna give it a shot. So hopefully this grass field here will get to growing fast for me, and I'll be able to sell some more real soon. I've got just a little bit in here already, and I'm just going to run down to the grass storage facility and see if I can't get the rest. Alrighty, so we have just sold 1,000,000 liters of grass for about 90K. Just dropped off the forage wagon back up here on top of the mountain, and now we are going to see if we can take out a nice large loan and get into maddening debt, and then buy this field 3 right here for 324, call it $5,000. So I'm gonna shoot for about 330,000 loan, and just gonna click the space bar a whole bunch of times here and see if we can get to 330. Actually, we better go for about 350. There we go. 850K because we're going to have to lease some equipment. We might even need more than that. Hopefully we have enough to actually lease it. So there's our 350. So let's buy that field and cross our fingers that this actually works. There we are. So we purchased our land, and now it is time to see. So we have some oat on that field currently, it looks like. I think that's the right color. And it is growing, the oat is. So we'll probably head over there and confirm that that's actually oat and I have that color right. Could be, let's see if I see any, it could be, no, that's corn up there, I think. So yeah, I think that's going to be oat, and so if we're so inclined, I suppose we could get the correct harvester and harvest that oat, let it go ahead and grow and harvest it before we plant anything else, which would probably make a decent amount of sense. But eventually I'd like to plant some potatoes there so we can get our herbicide going from earlier, but probably not the first priority, given that also required, I believe it was sugar maybe, and I'm going to figure that part out as well. So hey, we bought our first field though, so we can do something besides mow grass up here, so we'll call that a win for now. And now, so looking at what we have now, we have purchased our first field, which means we can grow something. And it actually so happens that there is oat currently in that field. And so looking at these things that I own, that I know already, that I know would be helpful for me to produce, fertilizer, herbicide, and seed, I am seeing that the Seed Master here, it needs fertilizer or liquid fertilizer, which I can get from the fertilizer, and the fertilizer needs silt, which is manure, compost, or silt. Again, hopefully we'll find out. I think it's one of the three. And silage, which I can actually get from another place I already own along that same line, which is grass processing, which just takes grass and makes hay, silage, and sewage. So maybe I can make a little money off this hay and sewage and put the silage in here, and then of course water, which I can get from any of those water triggers next to a body of water. So I'm thinking silt is the only thing I need. And manure and compost are a little bit more complicated, I think, to get. I'd have to buy something else, but silt I can get from the silt mine, which just simply requires diesel to make silt. And it doesn't look like it requires hopefully too much diesel to make a good amount of silt. So I'm thinking it might be helpful for me to purchase that if I can. So yeah, I am going to go ahead and buy that silt mine, and I'm going to go ahead and stop this video here. Really appreciate everybody watching, and look forward to seeing you next time for further adventures. See how many of these manufacturing locations we can get rolling. Thanks so much, and see you guys soon.